Manhattan's an island of stone. Idra is an island of stone, both in the sea. They're both islands. There's not many cities in the United States built on islands. Living on islands leads you to think certain ways, behave in certain ways. I identify very strongly with the landscape in both of those places. I'm sure that if I wasn't living in a city, it wouldn't be so much concentration on verticals and horizontals. But then living in Greece, it's the whole light. There's a kind of clarity. Plus, it's also pulled me much closer to older art. I have more feelings about a tradition of making paintings.
Well, in art school, you're always told to keep a notebook, so I'd go to coffee shops and sit and draw. Eventually, they just become like a little library of ideas, notes, drawings, poems, beginnings of letters, ideas, things one thinks about. I cut a lot of photographs out of magazines. And then you're on the subway and there's nothing to do, and you look through your notebook and you read, or you work on a drawing, or you see something and you just make a note of it. Like a good red, yellow, and blue situation at the entrance to the Holland Tunnel. Things in the studio, they're sort of extensions of the notebooks. They're just little notations or things you want to look at. And some things have been around so long, they're like friends.
Paper down, apply a coat of beeswax, rub it into the paper with razor blades, and then on the parts where I'm going to draw black, I start drawing with a graphite stick. I do a lot of drawing, from notebook sketches to larger notebook drawings that are done from nature and also worked on in the studio. I'll develop an idea, and it's worked up to a series of drawings. And yet at the same time, I tend to think of them more now as paintings because technically they are paintings. The graphite being worked into the wax makes a paint. So these are just like small panel paintings. Because each one is a panel, each one has a space. It comes together to make a whole space. The grid has always been just a way of measuring space and showing different things that could be happening in that space on the plane simultaneously. These could be considered details of the grid, just as in a way, a one-color painting could be considered a detail of a Pollock line in space. When I see space as an infinity with lots of changes, permutations, shifts, plays happening in it. Lots of tension. The drawing technically comes out of a sort of melding of materials. The paper is an integral part of the drawing. The wax is an integral part of it. Everything's a real part of the drawing. It becomes very real. That refers back to that objectness, or they're being like shields. Instead of putting frames on them, you put little handles on the back. Walk around with your art shield.
The back series?
It started from an idea. It started from an idea about a back, a person's back. What that could deal with, say, rejection or just skin tone. But then also they were just basically color exercises where I worked on the same shape same shape over a group of 8 paintings and took it from being very gray up to being very red, and sort of like pushing a color idea. How different could I make each painting? It was the exact same shape. That was like the formal aspect. So you have this mixture in all the work of like formal thinking and then also very hazy kind of romantic thinking. This is about the sea between Italy and Corfu, or this is about going from here to here. And you use colors, and you're constantly referring back to this memory of observed color, and you're constantly observing color all the time when you're working. Just pushing those colors, pushing, mixing.
So I've been painting these paintings with oil and varnishing, and they had a very shiny, sort of mirror-like surface, and they were painted in sort of neutral grays. I needed a medium added to the paint that would keep it matte so that you could see the color more definitely. Someone suggested using wax as an additive to the paint to keep it matte. So I started using it and been messing around with it, and I still use it. It keeps the paintings matte. And also it's very natural, and everything in my paintings I want to be natural.
The different uses of the way the panels are presented, vertical, horizontal, 1, 2, 3, 4, are usually just variations on the grid, which is my vehicle for presenting a lot of my ideas. Whereas another artist's vehicle may be classical mythology. Although I deal with classical mythology in my work. Try to deal with so many things. That's the strange thing, because you work and you can finally finish something. And it just doesn't answer any of the questions. It's okay, it exists, it's fine, it looks okay. It's a painting. But does it really say something about mythology? Is it really saying something about light? Or do we have any idea what it's really saying something about? Or does it just have a presence? Can you just make presence?
One of the abstract expressionist things was that a painting should be able to work upside down and on its side and on its side. And what I wanted was for my paintings always to have a very definite top and bottom. And the bottom edge was sort of a history and the accumulation that happened below a certain measured off drawn edge, like a history or an index of the making of the painting. The main reason for working in panels in the first place was to avoid the technical difficulties of working one color right up against another, because I didn't want to tape edges and things like that. The sizes usually relate closely to the human size. I mean, they're sort of around 6 feet or so. Well, I'm human size. blues with green, blues with orange, blues with other blues, sea blues, sky blues, straight from the two blues. Blue, black, green, black, blues, gray. I don't know how people look at paintings. I don't know what they think they are. They're not pictures. They're very special experiences. A lot of my attitudes have had to do with defending the idea of painting. Just painting itself, which has been under attack. Everyone keeps saying it's dead. Painting isn't dead. It's exactly the same way it was when they painted on the caves. No different at all. Just colored dirt on the ground. It's hard to look at paintings. It's really difficult. Very strenuous kind of activity. But very, very rewarding. Very rewarding. I mean, just like it's strenuous to listen to a great piece of music. They're very complicated. You have to think a lot. You have to be able to bring all sorts of things together in your mind and your imagination, and your whole body. Really get off on it. It's a very high experience. It isn't something that comes out and hits you over the head. It's something very deep and felt. The Guggenheim show, which wasn't a retrospective, it was just an exhibition of 10 years of work. And an exhibition of how I've been thinking. Having it in Wright's museum was like, it's like an honor to just, to in a way be dealing with Wright, because he set up a group of problems. He made it very difficult for the painter. I was just lucky because my paintings are so rectangular, so I felt that they were strong enough to deal with the curves and slopes of Wright. But the Guggenheim is the only museum in New York where you get a light that beautiful, because you have a lot of natural light up on the top ramp. Plus you get views of the work from 30, 40 feet off. Each color fits each panel. There are no optical illusions in a painting. If each panel is the same size, I want them all to look the same size. That's realism. Just think of it as a chord. But then in the making of that chord, you can also think of it as orchestration. Because you have so many subtleties at your command, or as you keep painting, you're always trying to add to a vocabulary, a painting vocabulary. So the more you paint, the more references there are. That's why the really good painters are usually old ones, because they really know. They've been working on it carefully all their lives. Younger painters, are usually interesting because of a certain kind of youthful energy. And so be very hyperactive in a sort of intellectually creative way. But as you get older, you refine and refine. I assume, I hope. My reasons for going into studying painting were very romantic and very off the wall,
all have about bohemians and Greenwich Village. But then you get involved and that all changes. But at the same time, you're living that kind of life. I mean, artists are all crazy. I wouldn't trust a painter unless I thought he was crazy in some way. He or she. And it always shows in the work. You're operating in a gap. No, you know. And you have to stay in that gap. You can't get too involved with one thing. You can't get too involved in another thing. You're a painter. You have to just be able to look at things. You're a philosopher. You're a mystic. You're a priest. You're a journeyman. A craftsman. We represent our tradition, the painter's tradition. It dates back 30,000 years.
Good painting usually occurs at times of bad government, bad times, and I think we live in horrendous times. Horrendous times. And when the artists, the painters, the poets, the sculptors, the dancers, musicians, and they rise to those occasions, they give man a reason to believe that he's just not ordinary, that he's really great. And yet at the same time, remaining humble. My father was very much into gardening, planting trees, walking in the woods, being with nature, working with nature. He used to build beautiful dry stone walls. I used to try to explain my paintings to him by saying, you build dry stone walls and everything has to fit together right in order for it to stand, and I make paintings and everything has to fit together right in order for it to stand. But he never quite got the comparison.